All right. Thank you guys for stopping by to Awakened Ave, man. I appreciate you being here. Day 36, living in a tent. Welcome to my home, man. So I say a lot. I was inspired to start this YouTube channel less than 3 months ago by the loss of a friend, right? His actual words. He texted me about 2.5 weeks before I found that he had passed. And when he wrote me a message saying that I need to spread my message more, maybe start a YouTube channel and get the word out. And so I was inspired to do that by somebody. And today's day 36 of living out in a tent, man. Minimalist tent living, kind of homeless by choice. I gave away all my possessions and moved out here in a tent 36 days ago. And why did I do that? Because I was intuitively moved to do that. So today I want to talk about two of my favorite words, man, and that's intuition and inspiration, and actually give you the definitions for both those words, and tell you how they relate to my life, and kind of explain how I listen to them, how I trust that process, and how it's brought me and led me right here with you guys. So I appreciate you for stopping by. Thank you. Please hit a like, please share, please subscribe, please watch the video to the end and let me know your thoughts, man, because I am no teacher, I am no guru, I'm just a guy on a journey, and to alleviate suffering, and to show people that you can be happy anywhere, and that it's not dependent upon the things that we think it is, and to get over that how I got over that suffering and over the illusion that you know, I had to listen to what everybody else told me to do, and how I try to follow that inner voice. So thank you very much. So let's get into it. So what is intuition? First of all, like, intuition is the sudden or immediate knowing without having to think about it, without conscious reasoning, right? It is just knowing, right? It's this internal gut to know intuitively. And I said it, I think, in my very, very first video, if not my second video. I said all knowledge is taught to us. All knowledge is taught to us. But true knowing is what you are, and it can only be experienced. And that's what intuition means. It is suddenly knowing without having to be taught and without having to use your mind to know. It is just this feeling, right? It's an immense feeling that you know you're supposed to do this or not do this or whatever it is. And if you break that word down, right, intuition, inner, tuition, right? Tuition is a fee paid for education, but it has a secondary definition also, that is the teaching in itself, or instruction, or knowledge. So tuition means inner knowing, or inner knowledge, or inner instruction. And I can't give it to you any more than that, right? So you don't have to you don't have to seek externally for the answers. You have the answers. You are the answer. It is there. It is beneath the surface. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how you get to trust that, and how you get to ask yourself the questions that only you can answer. I could tell you all day long, but you won't believe it until you know it, right? And it's different for everybody. The journey is different for everybody. The path is different for everybody. So intuition is a sudden knowing without the ability to think about it, or without the need to think about it, consciously think about it. And what does inspiration mean, right? Inspiration is being moved to do something, usually creative, right? It is, and that can come from a seemingly external source, but inspiration is being moved to do something, usually creative in nature. But the second definition for inspiration is the one I really want to talk about, and that's a clinical definition, right? So for all my nurses and doctors and medical help and professionals out there, inspiration is the drawing in of breath. Let me say that again. Inspiration is the drawing in of your breath. And think about the words, break them apart. At least I break them apart. In spirit, inner spirit, drawing in of breath. It is the life, right? It is what gives you life, the drawing in of breath. So inspiration may appear to come from external sources, but if we already know that intuition is inner knowing, and inspiration is the drawing in of breath, or in spirit, the life force it gives you. Intuition and inspiration are very important on the spiritual journey. And do you follow those? Do you follow those instructions and knowing? Do you listen to that voice, or do you listen to the crowd, right? All my life I was listening to the crowd and I was following this path, and today I'm out here in a tent, man, and I'm talking to you on YouTube. None of these were my ideas, right? So let's talk about first my inspiration. My inspiration to start the YouTube channel came from the loss of a friend, and he literally wrote this down for me, right, in a text message, and I found that he had passed 2.5 weeks later. And going back and reading, and it really touched me in a way and inspired me to do this, because he wanted me and thought that maybe I had something that you guys needed to hear, or that someone out there needed to hear. So he said I should share my testimony more of how I overcame most of my suffering in life and where I'm at right now. And his specific words were, you should start a YouTube channel, maybe a blog. If you can help one person out there, then you have done God's work well, right? And however you perceive God, it matters not to me. But I was inspired to start this YouTube channel by the loss of a friend. I didn't want to do this. There was nothing attached to it for me. I was perfectly comfortable moving along in my life the way it was. And so here I am, inspired to do this because I listened to those voices today. And then intuitively, inner knowing, it wasn't some plan that I wrote out to move out here into a tent around the same time. My lease was up. I was going to do van life. I was going to move around, and suddenly I just knew, like, comes across my heart to say, why don't I just try to go live in a tent for a couple of months and film it and show people that you could be happy anywhere. So that's how these things overlap, and how I listen to those voices. And I'm not saying to not use your mind at all, right? We have reasoning skills, we have to plan, but the movement, the feeling, this overwhelming knowing that this was the right decision for me, I don't play around with that anymore, you know. And I try to tell people, like, so what is intuition in terms of the feeling? How do you know when to trust that or not, right? And if you're anything like me, you trust it more and more and more as beautiful things start to unfold. So it doesn't matter what you do. If I tell people that if you're just walking along and all of a sudden somebody's name pops into your head, right? For no reason, it might be or somebody you talked to last week, it might not be somebody you've talked to in 10 years. But if they suddenly pop in your head, maybe you should call them. Maybe you should reach out to them. Maybe they need to hear from you. Maybe you need to hear from them. And you don't have to know the reason, but you should start to follow those signs from the universe, right? Or signs from God, or signs from your higher self, or source, or creator, or consciousness, whatever you call it. And I also say you can't miss a sign from the universe, because it'll keep getting louder. It'll keep popping up. It'll get louder and louder and louder. And then it'll slap the shit out of you, right? And I got the shit slapped out of me because I wasn't paying attention to those intuitions, or those sudden signs from the universe, or being moved to do something. I'm like, that's not that important. And then it just gets louder and louder and louder until I paid attention. Today, I try to pay attention. If somebody's name pops in my head, I reach out to them. If I'm leaving my house to go to the grocery store, and there's a grocery store a mile to my left and a mile to my right, equal distance either way, and for whatever reason I always go to the one to the right, but suddenly today I say, I'm going to go to this other one. I don't play around with it. I go to the other one, right? And usually what happens, I walk in and I have an encounter. Somebody I haven't seen in a long time, or somebody that might be struggling with something today, or maybe, you know, I needed to see them. It's not so much that they needed to see me. Maybe I needed to see them. But I've learned that if I suddenly feel moved to be somewhere, then I go there. And I trust that that's exactly where I'm supposed to be. And if nothing, usually something profound happens, right? These signs from the universe, and they just, they're beautiful. But even if nothing happens, I realized I was still supposed to be there, and I trust that 100% today. I don't debate it in my head, and some people may think that's crazy and weird and like, but I believe 100% I'm supposed to be out in this tent, and I'm supposed to be sitting right here in front of this camera right now talking about intuition and inspiration, man. And I learned to trust that. I didn't trust it at first. I didn't trust it. So my initial awakening was pretty painful, as all awakenings usually are, right? And I was suffering immensely, and I didn't trust anything. I didn't even know what to trust or what not to trust, right? And the veil started to fall for me, the veil of illusion, the Maya, right? And a big chunk of it fell off, and I could start to see that there was so much more to life. And I started to realize that every single turn I had ever made in my life, every single seemingly wrong turn or bad idea or 1 second, 1 millisecond, and I wouldn't be sitting where I am right now. And I could see this beautiful pattern unfolding, that nothing was an accident, nothing was a mistake. And I needed every single bit of experience in my life, and every single bit of hardship, and every good time and bad time and rainy day and sunshine to bring me right here to the realization that it's absolute joy and bliss, right? To the realization that I've always been blessed. I just didn't know it, right? And that's the real miracle of awakening, is this knowing, that sudden knowing that you are blessed. Can I still use my mind and fall into self-pity and remorse and resentment and irritation and impatience and intolerance? Absolutely. But I only stay there for a second, right? Or because I realize that I'm living in Maya, an illusion, right? I'm living in my mind, and it's a dream. And I bring myself right back to the moment, which is reality, right? So think about this. If you are in your mind thinking about what's for dinner later, thinking about tomorrow, thinking about next week, you're not present. So you're not in reality. You are dreaming. And if you are thinking of the past, thinking about how good it used to be, or somebody that's not around anymore, somebody that you're missing, you are not present, and you are dreaming. And that's what awakening is. Awakening to the moment. It's the only reality you can experience right now, is right here, right now, what's in front of you. If you are thinking of the future, you're dreaming. Thinking of the past, you're dreaming. You're not present. And I'm not saying to not use your reasoning skills, and I'm not saying not to plan ahead. I'm not saying not to be responsible, right? I am saying that planning ahead and reflecting on the past is only useful when you have the ability to live completely in the moment. And when you can do that, there is no suffering, right? The suffering is in your head. You suffer a little bit, and then you wake yourself up, right? Oh, wow, I'm making myself suffer. And I come back to the moment, and I share space with the people that are right in front of me. So that's how I kind of learned to follow that. And the more I do that, the more I'm in the moment, the more I experience intuition and inspiration from others, right? Seemingly from others, but it's always a sign. It's a mirror principle. It's always a sign showing me that this is what I'm supposed to be accomplishing. And those two go together beautifully. And how do I learn to trust those? I spend a lot more time being quiet. I spend a lot more time in the moment. I pay attention to the signs. I realize that everything is a sign. Whether I'm conscious of it or see it is another debate. But I try not to miss them today. And I miss a lot. But I catch a whole lot more than I used to. And I see them. And when I see them clearly. And once you know it, you can unknow it. You know it. So, excuse me. So that's a little bit about how intuition and inspiration, it brought me right here to you guys, right? And how the signs from the universe, how I kind of put it all together and just trust it completely today. So again, Intuition is inner knowing, and inspiration is in spirit, the drawing in of a breath, the life breath. So intuition and inner spirit are inner knowing and inner life.